Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. Today we're going to discuss Kai Havertz, Renato Vega, Yeremay Hernandez, and maybe a couple of other Chelsea news stories as well. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little bit confused. I'm slightly concerned, worried about this Renato Vega situation. It looks as though he's going to be leaving the club in January, just 6 months after he became a Chelsea player. Before we do get into anything though, I want to ask you to subscribe to GBFC if you're new and haven't already done so. And if you do enjoy yourselves with these January transfer news videos, then please do let me know by hitting the like on the video and let me know your thoughts on all of the stories we discussed today in the comments down below. First of all though, I want to just start by just saying how brilliant it is that Chelsea Football Club managed to get £60 million for Kai Havertz. Between Havertz and Mason Mount, who's unfortunately for Mount, for him personally, look, he's had loads of injuries at Manchester United, so he's not lit the world on fire in red. Chelsea got 120 million for Mount and Kai Havertz. Chelsea won a flipping Champions League with Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. If that isn't enough reason to give some love and adoration and credit to Thomas Tuchel for managing the absolutely unthinkable, I genuinely don't think I have seen a worse striker than Kai Havertz in the Premier League for the last 2 or 3 years. Genuinely, this man, I don't know what's happened to him. I'll forever be grateful for that goal that he scored. And normally, I don't really waste any time reveling in any other Premier League club's demise or downfall or struggles because, quite frankly, as a Chelsea fan in the last few years, we've been through it ourselves. We don't need to invite that additional pressure on us. But telling you what, today, I watched that Arsenal-Man United game last night, stayed up quite late for it, saw Spurs almost fumble at Tamworth. That would have been a story and a half. Extra time needed for them, but they get the job done. As for Arsenal, Ruben Amorim's Man United go there, but Kai Havertz, it was an absolute stinker to the point where now there's a lot of fans saying that Mikel Arteta's going to lose his job. Credit to Chelsea for getting 60 million for Kai Havertz, but I tell you what, as much as that will be considered very good business, I think, in the grander scheme of the history of Chelsea. Get him to score a great goal, win us a Champions League, and then just watch the decline and get 60 million for him. However, Renato Vega, okay, a man that we signed from FC Basel last summer, £12 million, looked like an absolute bargain. When we first saw Vega play, which I think he's actually featured in 18 of 30 matches this season so far, which is great. That's a lot of minutes for a fringe player. But his form has declined. There's been a lot of obvious things positionally where I think he's struggled. But when this news about a sale of Renato Vega's coming through, this is not the left back I anticipated Chelsea selling in January. So let's just quickly talk a little bit about what we're hearing here. This is from Matt Law. Chelsea value Vega at over 20 million quid and will only sell him no loan. Player fancies Borussia Dortmund move. This is from Nizar Kinsella. Dortmund are keen on signing Renato Vega on an initial loan. Vega is open to the move, but Chelsea would prefer a permanent sale if he were to leave in January. Okay, I've got a problem with this, guys. I've got a problem with this because Enzo Maresca's been given a 5-year contract. He's been given a load of new players. We spent loads of money on things. And for whatever reason, he's frozen out Ben Chilwell, a player that did win the Champions League with Chelsea. Great player on his day. Yes, he declined a little bit, but's never, ever been given a sniff. Renato Vega has featured 18 times out of 30 matches this season, which is a pretty decent return. Apparently, Renato Vega is saying that he wants to be a regular starter because he cares about his national career with Portugal, which is fair enough. But, has he really done enough at Chelsea so far to go and sign for a Champions League club to be a regular starter there? I'm not entirely sure. But that isn't what I've got a problem with. Renato Vega then says he wants to be a centre-back. Also don't have a problem with that whatsoever. But the issue here is, now that this is happening, what happens if Marc Cucurella gets injured? Are we all of a sudden just going to, dig up Ben Chilwell from that proverbial grave that he's been in at Chelsea for the last year? What are we actually going to do? Malo Gusto is also injured very often. We're just going to keep throwing him over at left back as well. My big concern here with the way that Chelsea are just allowing this to happen is that, do we actually really have a plan? Is it going to be that if we make these 10 million, 12 million, 15 million signings, the moment that we can get any kind of profit, regardless of what the manager has done with that player this season, regardless of whether or not Renato Vega's like, nah, you know what? I actually quite fancy being a regular starter for a team in the Champions League knockouts. Fair enough. I fully get that. But he just signed for Chelsea, and 6 months later, he's like, nah, I want to go. But more importantly, Chelsea, just because we're going to get an offer for him that might be 8 million more than what we spent, we're just going to sell him straight away. My concern is massive here, that we are just going to go and buy another average player to put into this squad to just fill up the numbers again. Is this the kind of squad building that is going to allow Chelsea to keep growing, that is going to see Chelsea being a Champions League club? When I see that this kind of thing is happening and Chelsea are just seemingly allowing this to go ahead, it does make me wonder about Maresca's comments about, no, we don't need the Champions League this season. Maybe for right now, this is another massive question that needs to be asked about how we are spending our money. I looked at Renato Vega. Personally, I really like him. I think he's a great personality. That's obviously not what you buy a footballer for. If you want to see the good personality, go and watch a comedian. But I think he's a decent footballer. I think the fact he can play DM, left back, centre back is important, particularly when we keep picking up injuries. I think he could be moulded into a great player. Chelsea, seemingly, are just happy to let him go. And I don't understand this. I really don't, because we don't have that much cover on the left-hand side. We also don't have that much cover with players that are competent playing in that defensive midfield or inverted role. So this is absolutely baffling to me. And as I've said already, I just hope that if this is the case and we're going to be turning over and selling Vega for about 8 million quid more than we bought him for, I hope that we've got a good plan up our sleeves here. I hope that Maresca is able to be like, right, okay, well, if I didn't like this about Renato Vega, the next left back that we buy, he's got to have this attribute, that attribute. And if that isn't the case, and Maresca's just going to have to just keep picking up and dropping off and re-picking up pieces every 6 months because we're signing so many players and then just like flipping them 6 months later, I don't think this is a sustainable way for Chelsea's squad to stay unified. It's not a surprise with such a big squad that we're finally hearing now, Vega wants to leave, Nkunku open to leave. This isn't a surprise. I always anticipated that some of the fringe players that weren't going to be getting regular minutes would want to leave. That is normal. But the concern is that Vega's been getting loads of minutes, Chilwell's not had a sniff, so then it really is just Cucurella left at left back. And I don't see any like conversations about, well, we're going to bring in that left back or we see the future with this guy. Really concerning, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. Let me know your thoughts on this story in the comments down below. Let's just segue now into this. Pat Nevin, I would not be surprised if Chelsea made a huge bid for Alexander Isak this January if they get any sort of hint that he is available. Remember, there was actually some stories that Newcastle might actually have to sell some of their big name players, but Newcastle right now are on an incredible roll. They've got 1 foot in the Carabao Cup final, a club that, to be fair, they deserve a trophy, to be honest. Their fans are absolutely fantastic, but Newcastle right now are absolutely on the up. And if I'm looking at Chelsea right now, I'm thinking, could this be, and I'm not saying this is my opinion because I think we're going to be okay. I think we've got enough quality in this squad. I think Maresca's a good enough manager. I would be looking at Chelsea again thinking, this last run of 4 games, like, this seems to happen all the time. Is it a stable place to be going? I don't know. I don't know right now. So, let's see what happens. Alexander Isak, we spoke about him a lot already on the channel. Really good player, in amazing form. Let's see if anything comes of this. Now, there's been a few stories floating around on social media from Spanish journalists recently. Chelsea has already made a firm offer to sign Deportijvo La Coruna winger Yeremay Hernandez, improving their initial proposal. Clubs from Italy and Germany have also registered interest. Now, Deportivo La Coruna, for those of you that are a little bit older, I'm 30 years old, and I remember the 2003-2004 Champions League season for obvious reasons. Deportijvo La Coruna, semi-finalists in the Champions League that season. If you don't follow Spanish football, you might look at that and be like, probably playing in La Liga, aren't they? Well, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that isn't true. As you can see here, Yeremay Hernandez, he's 22 years old. That fits the model of what Chelsea are trying to do. We like to buy young players now. But look at this. The bloke is playing in the second tier of Spanish football. All right? We have got ourselves a story here where we're looking at someone that's not even playing in La Liga. And we're offering potential money here to try and sign someone in the second tier. He's got 8 goals, 3 assists this season. If you scroll down here, like, to give credit, I'm not just writing this guy off, but the last time we signed someone from the second tier, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Say no more. We know exactly what's happened there. But let's go back to this quickly on the scouting report on FB Ref. As you can see, for the last 365 days, per 90 minutes, he's in the top 1% for non-penalty goals, non-penalty XG, total shots, good with the assists as well. There's some really good stats here. Progressive passes, 68, progressive carries, top 1%, successful take-ons as well. And I have done the absolute classic. I've gone onto YouTube. I've searched for some highlights. Look, I don't have the time, the love, the care, the energy to be following Deportivo La Coruna in the second tier of Spanish football, all right? So I've had to do it. He looks like a decent player. I'm not going to lie to you. It smells to me like Chelsea will just look for any kind of player that, all right, we're going to be able to sign in for that. And then I'm really worried about this whole 6 months Renato Vega thing. And then he's sold at the first available opportunity, the next transfer window. Is Yeremay Hernandez going to be another one of those players? Just look here again, like similar players to Yeremay Hernandez. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall is in the flipping list. You know what I mean? Like, this is not exactly what I wanted to be talking about on a Monday, to be fair. I'm worried about this, guys, when it comes to this Vega sale. Like, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe he's not really that great of a footballer. Maybe he's just putting himself on a pedestal that he doesn't quite deserve to be on. But in my opinion, it's more a case of looking at Maresca's usage of him this season. And featuring over 1,000 minutes of football for Chelsea is a lot so far this season already. And for us to just be selling him, I look at the backup in the left-back position, the injury records of James, Gusto. Cucurella's been amazing. I think he's the best left-back in Europe right now, potentially. But if he gets injured, like, what's going on? Are we going to sign this Yeremay Hernandez from Deportivo and be like, go left-back, mate? Do you know what I mean? I think we've got to be really careful here that the whole flipping for profit thing is not going to be the same for every signing that we make who's a young player. Lots of potential things that could be going on. I don't want to speculate and say too much like, oh, there's a rift in the dressing room or Vega's tearing up flipping turf at Cobham and causing a fuss here with Maresca. But, you know, we've not seen Madueke in matchday squads recently. We've seen, like, public ousting of certain players as well, saying they need to do more. But, yeah, the backup would be Ben Chilwell, and the man's not featured all season. We're reportedly selling him as well. So let's see what happens here with this news as the January transfer window goes on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Bournemouth tomorrow. Preview coming your way. Come on, you Blues.